Hi, everyone. We're back. This is Wisdom Word with a few minutes of wisdom on the mind. So, we started out a couple of sessions ago talking about discernment, the higher frequency, the higher vibration of discrimination or judgment. And that's when we're coming into using a more inner knowing, insight, inner vision, connecting to the third eye more. Because the third eye is the space, the chakra, where we come into seeing a whole picture. We start to come out of duality and we start to be able to have the ability to see something bigger than ourselves and our world of discrimination or judgment. So we went from talking about discernment into a second part of the series where we talked a little bit about some of the tools that help you, the building blocks that help you develop discernment, inner knowing, that deep sort of spiritual connection to the higher self. And those were meditation, mindfulness, watching the thoughts. And mindfulness, I think, is something that is very kind of well known to most people. Anyone who works a little bit in psychology or in that world of trying to discover, who we are and how we can be better people, we're generally going to hear a lot, probably from therapists and even doctors, to spend some time being mindful. And basically, that means watching your thoughts, which helps you become more present in the moment. To me, the mindfulness, one of the greatest benefits of it is that you really get to understand your own mind and how it works. And so, by watching the thoughts and developing meditation time and meditation concentration, you're training your mind and you're getting the best possible use that you can get out of your mind. So the mind, it's a wonderful gift. I mean, it does, it can think of anything. It can create all kinds of visions for you in all kinds of directions. And there have been great minds on the earth that have written wonderful plays and books and painted beautiful pictures and created architectural monuments and all kinds of things. There's also been minds that have created terrible wars and created discrimination to the point of making people slaves because they're different, or taking the humanity away from other people, or stealing land, or acting out in greed, and so on and so forth. So we start to see why it is beneficial to train individuals, to help train ourselves, how to use this mind to its best capabilities and how to understand it. So it helps to understand it, obsessions and suffering and getting caught in cyclic thinking, over and over the same thing and worrying about the same thing. These are when the mind gets out of control, when we don't have the ability to manage it, to understand it, to train it to be in that space where we all can be. In Buddhism, they talk about the everyone has this pure mind. Everybody has this diamond mind, and everybody has this purity. And sometimes it's obscured, just like the sun is obscured under clouds. It's obscured under the negative thinking, the worry, the fear, the stress. And to find your way back beyond all that stuff and find that pure place, it does take a little bit of work, a little bit of paying attention. It does take some meditation time, some mindfulness time. It does take some analytical, examining of your thoughts and noticing them. So when we work together on our chakra attunements, which we offer 3 times a week for anyone who wants to join in, or we have a number of them on our YouTube channel that are recorded that you can listen to, it's a constant training to connect to the chakras and to work with them with sound, with visualization, and to start to understand those parts of the system in the body. And we generally start out each time we come together, either for a meditation or a full moon channeling or these chakra attunements with focusing on the breath. So we start to breathe in, pause, breathe out, pause. And while we're going into the breath exercise, and I may be leading us into a Samavriti, which is an equal inhale and an equal exhale, with a pause at the top of the inhale and a pause at the bottom of the inhale, the bottom of the exhale. And so while we're doing this, we sometimes can even add a visualization to visualizing breathing in, pausing, breathing out, pausing, breathing in, pausing, breathing out, pausing. And so in our minds, we can draw a rectangle or visualize the breath coming in and moving and then going out and moving over. And what this does is gives our mind something to concentrate on. While we are concentrating on the breath, and while we're using our mind to measure the inhale, to pause, and measure the exhale and pause, we're starting to notice what we notice. And what you can begin to notice is that you do have thoughts that go by, why am I doing this? This is so silly. What do I have to do later? Oh my gosh, I'm taking 10 minutes out of my day. I should be working on this or that. And so you start to notice your thoughts. And the direction that I generally give with the breathing in, the pause, breathing out, the pause, then notice what you notice, inviting you to start to step into watching the thoughts and understanding the mind a little bit more. So we did talk in the first of this series on mindfulness and mind training. We did talk about the discernment, getting to that sharp place in the mind where the third eye is active, your other chakras are balanced, and you can kind of pierce through and see what the truth is, even with all the other stuff going on around. And from the discernment, we looked at on our second one, we looked at our second talk, we looked at the mental afflictions that can happen to the mind. And those three mental afflictions were attachment, where we get attached to ideas, where we get attached to things, and they were discriminatory thoughts and then wandering thoughts. So those three are considered the roots. And the more you start to watch your mind and notice what you notice, the more you can recognize, is one of those root afflictions pulling on me today, bothering me today, and I can start to sort of dig it out because I'm noticing what I notice. Now, those three mental afflictions lead to what the Buddhists like to call the five poisons. And the three, mental afflictions bring you again to these five poisons, as I've just said, and that is greed, anger, arrogance, ignorance, and doubt. And these, if you think about them, greed, you can just get so obsessed on, I have to have another slice of chocolate cake. I have to have more money. I have to have that person like me. I have to have those Manolo Blahnik shoes. I don't even know if I said that right, but I know they're expensive shoes. But at any rate, greed. And we all have that. We all have pulls, inside where we want something. When we're little kids in the sandbox, we want the other kid's toy, or we want the other kid's truck, or we want your sister's doll, or whatever it is. So, it's kind of human to look at something and feel that part that wants it. And we do have to train our minds so that they don't become obsessed with greed or anger. We can get very easily angry. It surprises me. I'm not someone who's quick to anger, and I'm not someone who, through my work, I've spent a lot of time like resolving a lot of those things in myself, and I'm more peaceful. And yet something will happen that will set me off. It could be as simple as you can't get through. You're trying to resolve something with a credit card company and you can't get through on the phone, or your computer crashes when you're in the middle of, trying to write an important paper or whatever it is, and all of a sudden, whoa, we're attaching to like, why me? Why did this happen? And so on and so forth. So anger is one of those poisons, just as greed is, and arrogance. That's when we start to think that we're superior to everything. We're, better at everything than anyone else, which of course you can see is connected to that discriminatory thoughts again. "Ooh, I'm college educated, so I'm better than someone who's not. Ooh, I'm have more money, so I'm better than someone who has less. Ooh, I'm thinner than somebody, so I'm better than someone who's heavier. I have blonde hair, so I'm better." Whatever. So we see how, easily it is to get caught into comparisons and caught into thinking that one thing is better than the other. And you see how that particular poison, just like the first other two that we mentioned, the anger and the greed, you see how the mental afflictions kind of connect to those and feed into those little branches out, of those issues. And so then, ignorance. So I like the word ignorance. One of my teachers taught me to use this word instead of calling someone stupid or a moron, or, things that you might find when you're not thinking straight, or you're, in an angry mood that you might fling out at somebody. Ignorance. So ignorance is ignoring some part of the self. Ignorance is not stupid. There are very, very learned people who sometimes do things out of ignorance that seem just implausible or impossible. You can't understand how that person could have made that choice. And it has nothing to do with intelligence, but it has to do with they're ignorant to some aspect of the self. And it's very, very easy to ignore lots of parts of the mind. So in our middle talk, when we introduced the roots of the mental afflictions, we talked a little bit about how not knowing your mind, not getting to know it, not getting to understand how your particular mind works, could keep you in ignorance of something that's going on inside of you. And everything that goes on inside of us, every thought, every emotion, every action, which is outside of us, but every internal, they all have energy. And that energy is going to pull the energy in the outer world towards us. So if we're angry, but we're ignoring it, we're going to have a lot of angry people in our life. If we're angry about something and we've stuffed it so far down, we don't even know it's in there, we're going to have it reflected to us in the outer world. And oftentimes people who feel, you don't have an anger, I don't feel angry about anything. They're super surprised when they see something on the news or they see somebody behaving a certain way and it triggers a, a flaming anger that just seems like it bursts out of nowhere. So I think ignorance is really important to pay attention to. And when you're practicing mindfulness and you're learning your own mind and you're learning what are the things that I tend to ignore, then you'll have a little bit sort of a deeper connection to ignorance and how that can ultimately be a poison in your system. And then last but not least is doubt. And I think doubt, crushes a lot of talented, wonderful people. There's doubting the self is such a deep action of confusion, of internal confusion and not understanding. You can't get to discernment if you're caught up in illusion, confusion, delusion, and you're caught up in that fog. So doubt, when we doubt our own feelings, when we doubt our own inner knowing, when we doubt something what somebody else is saying, is ultimately going to, you're ultimately going to recognize that the self-doubt comes first. If you are developing that discernment and that inner knowing, you're developing wisdom. And if you're developing that wisdom, you are able to sort of step back and really evaluate instead of immediately going to doubting yourself or doubting others. So you can see how these five poisons can really lead to, an unhappy life, a lot of confusion in your relationships, a lot of confusion in your communication with other beings and with your connection to nature and your connection to animals and all kinds of stuff. So doubting, ignorance, arrogance, anger, greed, the five poisons, and the three root mental afflictions, attachment. So you can get attached to any of those things. See how that happens? Attachment, and then the discriminatory thoughts, and then the wandering thoughts. So you start to notice how important it is to be able to pay attention to the mind. And that is why the root, one of those root building blocks for getting to that discernment, for getting to less worry, less stress, less confusion, is mindfulness, and how the mindfulness really develops an ability to focus on one of the other building blocks, the meditation, and develop that meditative concentration. Meditative concentration helps you maintain a pure mind that's free from those mental afflictions. And so remember, we started talking a little bit about in the beginning of this talk about the idea that everybody has a pure mind. It just gets obscured through mental afflictions, through garbage, through contentless information and entertainment. And I think that this is so big in our world right now because at the touch of a button, we can, be scrolling through millions of TV stations with, what is that? Satellite or whatever it might be. I don't have TV, so I don't know. But you can, scroll on your phone in social media and see clips of movies and, news clips and information on people, and it happens in seconds. So your mind is getting inundated with all these visions, pictures, thoughts, awareness from the outside world, and you're not having time to sort it through and get to clarity. What gives you that clarity is those mindful moments, times alone in nature, just listening and being present with the birds or the movement of the leaves in the tree or your feet walking on the path. And of course, meditation, giving yourself time to go into deep meditation and listening to your thoughts. The beginning aspect of meditation, usually to start, most people will lead you to focusing on your breath. And as you focus on your breath, just like we spoke to in the first few minutes of this talk, you begin to notice what you notice. And if you're just starting meditation and you are starting it because you have a stressful life and you're not peaceful inside and you're disappointed and this and that is happening, it's probably going to be challenging to start to sit and watch the thoughts, to start to sit and be mindful because there's so much noise going on. All that noise that you see in the outer world is a reflection of the noise that goes on in the inner world of many of us. So we have a responsibility to ourselves, ability to kind of respond to finding ways that can bring us to a more peaceful state and giving ourselves the space to experience spaciousness, to experience groundlessness, to experience a big opening where those noisy, constrictive thoughts can start to move away, and you can pierce through the fogs with deeper insight. You can pierce through the confusion with that discernment, and it can help you make the choices that are going to bring you to a more peaceful state of mind. Blessings all, and I'll look forward to seeing you again real soon. Have a great day.